Hey folks, Steve Sheets with GhostRanch Communications bringing you episode 2.2 from Shortcut Corner, Working with Shapes. As usual, these episodes are cumulative, so if you haven't seen Shortcut Corner episode 1, Getting Started, or episode 2.1, Working with Shapes, please go back to our channel and take a look for those so you don't miss anything. We'll be keeping it quick today. I'm going to spend about a minute and a half talking about an alignment trick that I really like. Then I'm going to go into a cropping trick and the general function of the merge shapes tools. Some pretty cool effects that can happen with fills across groups and compound objects. Then we'll be copying and pasting object formatting from one object to another and wrapping things up with the very important formatting pane and all of the great things that we can do in there. Let's dive in. It used to be with PowerPoint, when you grabbed the corner of an image, you had to hold shift to keep from distorting it, just like shapes. They've made it so you don't have to do that anymore. If you really, really, really insist on doing it, like this picture, it looks a little stretched to begin with, so I'm just gonna bring it in a tiny bit. And there we go. It doesn't look skewed at all. I think that's looking good. So we'll give it a little bit of room from the edge. And I really like that picture right where it's at, but I wish the top of the photo was even with, say, the top of this S at the end of shapes, which would be the X height of this subtitle. We just used a duplicated shape as a reference when we were showing the effects of zooming in and out and moving objects with your keyboard. I duplicate shapes really often in order to use them as guides for each other. And I don't know how to explain this without doing it, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this shape by Control-Shift dragging. And now I've got these two pictures that are totally even with each other. And the reason I brought it over here was because I really want to maintain this amount of space between this picture and the right hand edge of the slide. So, I could hold shift and move it up and down. And I think that's probably really close to being even with the top of the S, but I'm not sure. So what I'm gonna do is take this one. I'm gonna hold Control, mouse wheel in, let go of Control, mouse wheel up a little bit, and just tap up on the keyboard until it covers the top of the S. And hold Control again, mouse wheel back out, select both these pictures and arrange, align, top. Now, I know for a fact that both of these pictures are even with the top of the S. I don't need that one that I was using as a guide anymore. And there we go, I've got the layout that I wanted. And while I've got this picture up, I want to share another really neat tool that PowerPoint has. It's very similar to the Pathfinder tool in Illustrator if you're familiar with Adobe products. But say I just wanted to cut an angle out of the edge of that picture to make the layout a little bit more interesting. Yes, we want it to be cropped kind of like that. I could make this shape white, and I can send all these things to the back. But if I had a photo background or a gradient in the background, stuff like that, it wouldn't necessarily work. So I'll go ahead and put a fill back on this shape again just so we can see it. And I'm going to cut this shape out of that picture using what will be on your format tab. I was going after it on my quick access toolbar here. The merge shapes functions. Now, they behave differently based on what object you selected first. Now, right now, this is cutting the picture out of the rectangle. That is not what I want. I'm going to select the picture first, then the rectangle, and I'm going to go to subtract. And there we go. Now I've got the crop on the picture that I wanted, and it's basically just a normal photo. I've just changed the shape of its frame. Okay, so what else can we do with the Merge Shapes tool, and why would we want to use it? Well, say I want to make an icon. I'm just going to do a really quick, not very good icon, but We are gonna pretend that this is like the best person you've ever seen drawn, and I'm just gonna merge those together real quick with union, and there we go. Now it's one shape that, as people will go and use this icon later, if they hit Control Shift G, they can't ungroup it. They really can't break it, which is great. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to put a gradient on this just to make a point. Not going to use that gradient because I don't like the way it looks, but we'll do something like that. It's a little bit better. So it's kind of cool. This is all one shape. Gradient goes the whole way through it. Now say this was a group. Obviously I'm not making a person again, but if I grouped these two objects and I put a gradient in them, group will behave the same way, which is awesome. Picture fill will do the same thing in a group, and if I come and I move one of these elements in the group, the fill will respond appropriately. So very cool effect that groups can do in regards to their fills, but if somebody ungroups it, it breaks it. So just something to think about when you're deciding whether or not to merge shapes together to create one compound shape. One last thing that I want to demonstrate super quickly while I've got this gradient up is, say I've got a bunch of objects and I wish all of these had that gradient fill on them. Well, I could use the format painter, which is on the home tab. So I click the format painter, that automatically copies the style. I click the shape I want to apply it to, and it did it. It did it once, that works. What happens if I want to do it to two shapes? I have to double click the format painter, then it stays loaded, and I can keep on clicking on stuff until I click on nothing, then the format painter goes away. Works well enough, but there's a faster way. I'll undo these. Select the object that you want to copy the style of, Control Shift C to copy style, Control Shift V to paste, Control Shift V to paste. I can select all these and Control Shift V to paste, and it brings that style over. I can go to another slide, Control Shift V to paste that style again. I can even copy this object, bring it back somewhere else, paste that, and I can still have my copied style and apply it wherever I need to. So very cool function is the copy and paste style. It's one of the most time-saving tools that I can ever use. It works on fills, font sizes, font colors, text frame properties, line colors and weights, picture effects, shape effects. It picks up pretty much everything you could ever want it to. So incredibly useful tool. And while we're talking about all those things, let's talk about where to find them. Over here in the Format tab, we've got some different effects, like you can put a drop shadow on a shape, although I'll admit I don't really like the defaults. I think you need to, at the very least, spread the blurs out way more. Be careful with the transparency. My main use for them is to be really, really subtle and just help make text legible, while at the same time trying to make the drop shadow unnoticeable. This is when I'm using text on top of photos. We'll touch on that when I'm doing an episode on formatting text. Reflection, hardly ever use. Glow and soft edges, these can be helpful sometimes if you're maybe trying to make your own shadow for an object. Like if I just kind of put that glow on there, and we'll make the fill gray. Now, that creates a sort of shadow effect. So that can be a good use for that one. 3D format, 3D rotation, those are some things that you're probably not going to need very often, but they do exist. Just be really careful. They kind of tend to end up looking cheesy. And these rotations are kind of good if you just need to fake some perspective on something. But again, it's like really deep dive kind of stuff. Line over here, you get access to the color and line weight, some different patterns you can apply to it. The cap type, this is talking about the endpoints on a line. I'll make this line super thick so we can see it. So, rounded caps, and you can apply arrows. We'll just do that. You can change the size of the arrow. Cool stuff over here in the formatting pane. Something we didn't really touch on either. You could type in the height, width, rotation, as well as the position of an object. Or if it's a text box, you can do all kinds of very important things to text in here. But we'll be saving that for a later date. I think that's all we need to cover for today. You may have noticed I did not use some of the techniques from episode 1 just to help along. If anybody hasn't caught that yet, please go back and check out that first episode. There's some really good techniques in there as far as interacting with the program itself in ways that are going to save you a whole bunch of time. Please share this video with anyone that you think might benefit from it, and subscribe to our channel for future updates. And do please visit us at GhostRanch.com for any questions, comments, or subscription to our newsletter. Anything that you may have around graphic design or PowerPoint, we'd love to hear about it, and hope everyone has a great day.